Hi there, thanks for tuning in to us today. Today's episode is brought to you by a current event which I think we as police officers should all be aware of and be prepared to enforce and take care of our communities when the situation comes to your town. And the current event I'm talking about is the release of the movie Furious 7. Now, can a movie cause somebody to break the law or cause an issue locally? No, it can't. Can a movie romanticize and glorify an illegal, dangerous activity? Yes, it can, and I think that the Fast and the Furious movie franchise has done this several times so far, 6 times to be exact. Now, number 7's coming out tonight, and I think as police officers, we should be prepared for what's about to happen because if it follows suit with the last 6 movies, every time a movie comes out, we see a resurgence in the illegal street racing culture and the car clubs and so forth, and we have a lot of activity centered around things like that. So I think as police officers, it sort of behooves you to be aware of the situation and to educate yourself about the state laws we can use to enforce these actions when they come up in our towns. Now, first of all, if you're not familiar with the Fast and the Furious movie franchise, I don't know how you missed it. Let's review a little bit about it and talk a bit about the program right now. Furious 7 is the 7th show in the series. The first 6 came out, started off in 2001. The very first episode was a pretty simple storyline. It was about a undercover police officer who had to sort of infiltrate the world of illegal street racing in order to get to a theft ring. And of course, with the world of illegal street racing, we got treated to a lot of illegal drag racing, stunt driving, fancy fast driving on public streets, and that's sort of what's sort of centered and glorified a lot of the street racing activity now in the U.S. The franchise has 6 movies, now 7, a couple of video games, video releases, lots of merchandising. It is valued at over $2.3 billion worldwide. Now it will air on over 800 IMAX theaters this weekend. For the release, it's projected to pull in $275 million this weekend. It will be a big thing, as it has the last few times. This time especially, we had the death of one of the main characters, Paul David Walker. He passed away during an actual street run. He and a friend took off in a hot rod. I'm not sure if it was actually a street race or not, but they took off way too fast, had a crash. Driving sort of like they do in Fast and the Furious. So I thought it'd be a good example of the people what not to do, but it has sort of martyred him and also martyred the series. From what I've heard, he'll be featured in the show somehow and be retired. He won't be killed off, but he'll be retired out of the program. So they've got a way it's supposed to be a tribute to him as well. So that's all going to add fire to fuel to the fire, I believe. Like I said, every time the show has come out, we've seen a resurgence in street racing. There was also another show that came out, Biker Boys, and all of a sudden when that came out, we saw a big surge in people driving the cafe-style street bikes. So this movie will have an effect on our communities, I think. And I think it's something we have to be prepared for and be ready to enforce when we see options come up in the street to make sure we keep our communities safe. And the way we do that, by enforcing state law. We have a couple of great state laws here in our state, and I think it'll help us out. Now, once again, my shows are centered in the state of Indiana. If you're watching from a different state, I think what I'm saying here rings true as well. It's sort of universal. But when we talk about the specific laws and we quote specific statutes, very simply just look up your own state law or your motor vehicle code, whatever you call it, where you may work, and insert it where I have our state law here and sort of dissect it the way I do our state law and see what the certain parts of the law are and what the elements of your law are and how it works out for you, and I think that'll help out as well. But for right now, let's go ahead and review our Indiana state statute. The statute's 92161. Let's take a look at that. 92161 is pretty straightforward. Speed contest prohibition. A person may not engage in a motor vehicle speed contest on a highway or a street. Now, there's a second part of the statute that essentially says obstruction of highways and streets. It says a person may not obstruct or place a barricade or an obstacle across a highway or street to facilitate or aid or as incident to a motor vehicle speed contest. So the law covers 2 parts of the motor vehicle of the street racing culture. First of all, if you participate in a street race by being a racer, you're in violation. Second of all, if you're part of the crowd that helps run a street race in some way, shape, or form by blocking a roadway, you're also in violation of this law. This law is a Class B misdemeanor. So this law is actually an arrestable offense. So you can do a write and release on a promise to appear notice, or you can actually do a custodial arrest depending on your own department and your own statutes and your own program where you work. Now let's look at the definition of speed contest. So that's the part in the first part of the statute. It says a person may not engage in a motor vehicle speed contest. Legally, what is a motor vehicle speed contest? Okay. In the definitions, 913-172, speed contest means an unnecessary rapid acceleration by two or more vehicles that creates a hazard to pedestrians, passengers, vehicles, or other property. So I think very simply put, we have a statute that says a person may not participate in a motor vehicle speed contest. A motor vehicle speed contest is two or more vehicles having unnecessary rapid acceleration. When I travel the state doing different training classes, I get to speak to a lot of different people, different prosecutors, different departments, and see how things are done and how things are sort of described and defined in different areas. And one of the things that always interests me is I see a lot of times people they try to err on the side of caution, and I hate that phrase, but they'll try to err on the side of caution, and they'll sort of avoid enforcing the statute. They think they can be beat in court later on. Well, excuse me. Something I want to encourage you, remember, as police officers in the street for an actual investigation and for a contact and even for a citation, remember, we deal with probable cause, which is a lot lower burden of proof than, say, a court case where we have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. So I say trim this statute down to bare bones. Don't think too much about it. Don't overthink it. Don't talk yourself out of enforcing. I think if we have a situation where if we enforce these pretty stringently and pretty strictly, I think we'll have a situation where we can actually help curb the problem with illegal street racing, basically using the broken windows theory, where people see, the street racers see that we're out enforcing it on a regular basis pretty strictly, they'll get the idea to not do it. And hopefully it'll encourage some people to stay away and not participate in activity like this that could be dangerous to our communities. What I mean by trimming it down to the bare bones basic situation, some people say when a car takes off in a street race, they say, oh, it's only doing 40 miles an hour. It wasn't really racing. Now, how does that happen? Say two cars are at a stoplight. The light goes from red to green. Two cars take off. They get 50 yards down the road and they see you. Hit the brakes. Nosedive. Okay? That situation happens. Just because they didn't get to 100 miles an hour doesn't mean you cannot enforce the statute. Now look at the elements of the statute. They cannot engage in a motor vehicle speed contest. What's a motor vehicle speed contest? An unnecessary rapid acceleration by two or more vehicles. Did you have an unnecessary rapid acceleration by two or more vehicles? In the situation I just said, it sounds like it. So I'm going to encourage you to read the statute, go over it with your own local prosecutor, your supervisors, and make sure you're prepared to enforce as strictly as possible. Remember, the main idea we have on the streets is to keep our communities safe, and by preventing street racing on our streets, I think we can do so. Once again, thanks a lot for tuning into our training programs. MLETI will be producing a couple shows every week, so do me a favor, and as you can, share this with your friends in law enforcement, put it on your Facebook pages, Twitter it, tweet it, whatever you want to do. Try to get the word out. We're going to put more shows out every week, and hopefully for Indiana fans, we'll be covering more statutes in our law book, so it'll be featured right around our own laws. And for officers all around the state, we'll also be hitting some generic ideas and general training programs. So once again, thanks a lot for tuning in. As always, be safe. We'll see you next time.